Hey guys, Sean with Note Cycles. Today we're going to be doing an install and an overview on Diamond Audio's brand new MSHD9813SG. This thing is packed full of features to bring your Street Glide into the future. So some of the features that are included in this brand new Diamond Audio head unit: wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, 10-channel built-in DSP, as well as 5-volt RCA pre-outs. Some of the other cool features of the Diamond Audio head unit: IPX6 rated, super bright screen, as well as it has a backup camera input. As part of the installation, I'm going to show you how to remove your front fairing, remove your ignition cylinder, remove your factory or aftermarket radio, as well as install the brand new Diamond Audio radio. Then we're going to go through all the features of the brand new head unit, and then we're going to reassemble the bike. So let's go over some of the tools that are going to be necessary to complete your installation. So first we have some wire ties, as well as a cutter, just in case we have to remove any of the factory wire ties and put them back. We have a T16 Allen, that's going to be to remove some of the bolts on the front fairing, as well as remove the bolts holding in the factory or aftermarket radio. We have a number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, as well as a T27 Torx, and we have some panel poppers just in case we need to remove any plugs. So your bike may have some different hardware than ours. In that case, you're going to want to check over your bike, just make sure you have everything you need to do the disassembly and then the reassembly again. So now we've gone over everything, let's get to the bike and get it disassembled and start the install of our brand new Diamond head unit. So as we begin disassembly, we have 7 total fasteners that we need to remove to release the front fairing. On ours, we have 3 Phillips head holding in the windscreen, and then we have 4 T27s on the inside of the fairing. So I like to start by having something to cover up my front fender, whether it be a blanket, a towel, a fender protector. So we're going to start with that. And now we can go ahead and grab our Phillips head screwdriver, start releasing the 3 screws holding in the windscreen and the top of the fairing. So we can remove this piece and then slide off our front windscreen. So now we have our front windscreen off. We can move to the inside of the fairing. So again, we have 4 T27 Torx to remove. First one that I'm going to remove is right here. So now we can move to the other side and remove the upper T27 bolt. Now that the 2 tops are removed, we'll move to the inner bottom part of the fairing and get those 2 T27s removed. And then we'll move to the other side. And now we have one last T27 to remove in the lower part of the fairing, so let's get that out. So now our fairing is fully released. I'm going to show you how to get it up and off of your bike next. So now all 7 of our fasteners are out. We're going to just gently lift up and tilt revealing our headlight plug. Now that you're just gonna gently wiggle off. So now our front fairing's off. We reveal our factory radio. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get all of my plugs undone off of the factory radio. Easiest way to do that is with some sort of panel removal tool or a small flathead screwdriver. Stick towards the back, lift up, and then just wiggle it out. Then we can go ahead, this one has a CB, we'll just remove the antenna out, get it out of our way. Same thing with the bigger power harness. Lift up, wiggle it out, and remove. And then because this one has a CB, we'll have to go ahead and remove this one as well. So that one you're gonna push in on both sides and then just remove. Finally, we have our antenna that will just pull straight out. Now we've unplugged everything out of our factory radio and CB. You may not have a CB, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But next we need to remove these little support wings from either side so we can access our bolts that are actually physically holding the radio in. So we'll do that next. Removing our front fairing supports are relatively easy. T25 Torx, 3/16 Allen. T25 is on the speaker. So go ahead and just undo that one. And then go ahead and get that 3/16 Allen. So that gives us the ability to move the support out of the way. Now we'll remove this side, starting with the Torx. And then the Allen. So now we have that out of our way. So now we can start removing the 4 bolts that hold in the factory radio. So now we have to remove 4 bolts to get out the factory radio. They are kind of hidden. One is here and one is directly behind. I found the easiest way to go through is there's a hole in the side here. You can go straight into the first one and remove it. The second one, you kind of have to lift up on the inner fairing support and then go into the back there and you can get it. So let's go ahead and get those removed now. Now you want to be careful not to drop this inside. So when you have it most of the way out, just try to slide it and grab it. So now we'll go ahead and remove the rear one. Now that these 2 are out, we have 2 more to remove. Same process as on this side. You're going to go through the fairing support and then through the back. So we'll go ahead and get those out. So now all 4 bolts that are holding our factory radio in are out. Easiest thing to do, just grab and slowly wiggle backwards with maybe a little push on the front and slide it straight out through the front of the bike. So now we have our front fairing and our factory radio out. So now it's time to show you how to remove your ignition the proper way. So with a lot of these aftermarket head units, we need to go in from the front, as in case with this Diamond Audio head unit. So we need to remove the ignition to create enough space to actually get it in. So to do that, you're going to have your key, stick it into your ignition cylinder to the unlock position, flip it to the fork lock position. On the bottom side underneath the unlock, there's going to be a little push pin. You're going to push that just slightly up and rotate your key about a half a turn counterclockwise. So like that. And then you're just going to slide it all the way out. You're going to want to make sure that you do not change anything, set it in a very safe place, because if anything moves on this, you're going to need the factory Harley-Davidson reset tool to get your ignition reset. So before we actually install the Diamond Audio radio into our bike, let's go over some of the things on the back of the unit. So we have our factory plug, we have our antenna, we have our USB, we have our plug to give us our turn signals and oil lights. We have our Bluetooth microphone input, as well as our backup camera input. We have our remote turn on, our camera 12 volts, and then we have a set of speaker wires, or 2 sets of speaker wires for rear speakers. Now, depending on whether your Street Glide just had fronts or had fronts and rears, this is where the 35-pin connector would be to power your rear speakers. So now we've gone over all that. It also gives you the factory holes to add the amplifier plate on the top of the unit. So let's go ahead, slide this radio in and get it installed. So let's go ahead, get the head unit slid in. You just want to make sure you have all of your wires grouped and in before you start getting it in. So slide it in. You may have to just push on the brackets a little bit to get it to slide in 100%. There we go. So you're going to want to line the factory holes in the bracket up to the Diamond Audio holes. And we're actually going to go ahead and use our factory bolts to secure that back in. So let's grab the bolts and get it secured in and keep going. So we have our 4 factory bolts. Go ahead and get those put back in. Sometimes you want to get those started by hand. Just get a couple threads going. Now just be patient with this part. It isn't the easiest thing to do, especially if you have big hands like I do. You may have to wiggle the radio around a little bit to get them started, but once you get them started, they'll go right in. So I got that one started. So for this side, I usually have to try to start it with the Allen. So start getting those turned in by hand, and then you can go ahead and tighten it down almost all the way. You may have to do a little bit of readjustment once we go to put the ignition cylinder back in, because you want it to be clear. So we still have a little bit of wiggle, a little bit of room. So now it's time to start plugging stuff in. So as it stands, we have our 35-pin larger harness, And then our smaller power harness. We're going to go ahead, get that smaller harness plugged in and clicked in. We can find our factory antenna, get that plugged in, as well as we need to find our factory turn signal plug. So for that, we will just unplug the factory connection as such, and then take our white plug and plug that in. So that will actually give our turn signals and oil light on our radio. From there, if you have rear speakers on your bike, that is where you'll plug in your 35 pin here. We have two things left. We have our USB. You can run your USB wherever you so choose. For this unit, since it's wireless, you can use this as a charger. You can also use it for a USB drive to hold music. And then we have our Bluetooth microphone that will plug into here. So let me grab that and we'll get that kind of run. So we have our Bluetooth microphone. I'm going to go ahead and plug that in like such, and then you can run that wherever you would like. Most of the times I keep it in between the windscreen and the actual rear part of the front fairing. So you can clip that on like that, and then you'll have to just kind of move it around when you go ahead and reassemble the bike. So now we have everything plugged in. Let's go ahead and get the ignition cylinder back in the bike and make sure we don't have to do any, push the radio in a little bit to get clearance. So now we want to get our ignition back into the bike. So again, we left the bolts a little loose to make sure we have enough area, but you're going to make sure that your cylinder is how it was when you pulled out. Slide it in with gently, push it down, turn the key back to unlock, and then remove the key. So now you should be able to turn it to off and then turn it to on, but it will not come back out of the bike. So now that's back in, locked in. We can go ahead, hop on the bike, test the features, make sure our handlebar controls work, make sure our front speakers work. If you have rear speakers, make sure the rear speakers work, and then go through some of the features of the Diamond Audio head unit. So now our radio is installed, everything is plugged in. We're going to want to go ahead and check turn signals, headlights, handlebar controls, everything like that before we go ahead and put everything back together and reinstall our front fairing. So we're going to go ahead, turn the bike on. I instantly see that I'm in neutral on the radio. So let's go ahead, check turn signals. So left turn signal works, right turn signal works. Let's check our brights. Our brights work, at least the indicator does. So let's go through some of the features. We'll check our volume up. Our volume down works fine. We have our mute. Let's check track up or station up works. Down, and let's go ahead and go through the modes here. So we have our Bluetooth music. We have our Sirius XM, which we do not have installed, but you can install that. And then back to AM FM. So let's go through some of the stuff here. I am an Apple user, so let's go ahead and hook up our Apple CarPlay. So we'll tap that and go into settings. Make sure that our autoplay is on. And then go into that, double check, make sure everything is on that we need. We are in English. Go ahead and switch that to the 12-hour system. Use GPS, so perfect. Tap home. Go ahead and slide over. We can tap Apple CarPlay, tap pair. So I will bring up my settings. Wait for it to find it. All right, my iPhone, go ahead and tap that. Pair. Allow our contacts to sync. And when it comes up with connect to CarPlay, you're going to want to hit connect. And then this should get a little check mark in it. So there we go. So now wireless Apple CarPlay is connected. So let's go ahead and find some music just to listen to. Go into Spotify here. Go ahead and So one of the nice things about having wireless Apple CarPlay is there is no connections that you have to make. You don't have to have your phone physically out. You can keep it in your bags, in your pocket, in your jacket. It just makes things a lot easier. Another nice thing is you can always run other things in the background, so you could be playing music and have one of your maps open, whatever you need. So now we've got our phone connected. We can go ahead and check out some of the other features. So we can check the microphone, make sure that works. Navigate to Dairy Queen. So that brings up a couple of the Dairy Queens in the area. We can go ahead and get rid of that. So we can tap the home button, and we have our different sources that are available to us. So that we have our USB, our AM/FM tuner, our Bluetooth phone, our Bluetooth music. We use our finger to slide over. We have the EQ DSP as well as the backup camera option. So let's go into the EQ DSP. So you have a global EQ where you can adjust as you see fit, however you want. It's a personal opinion of how you want your music to sound. Next down is the fader and balance. So you can fade it to the front, to the rear, to the side, however you want, or there's a center button. Just tap that center button, that'll get you back to the center. You have a loudness button if you want to give it a little extra oomph. Next down is crossover, so you can set your crossovers on anything you would like. So right now it's front. You can put your high pass filter and slide it up and down anywhere between 20 hertz and 20 kilohertz. So we'll go ahead and set that at about, let's just say 80 for now. Low pass filter, go ahead and stick that all the way up to 20. Then you can adjust your slope depending on however you so choose. Moving on from there, the EQ, again, you can set that front, rear, as well as channel 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the RCAs. And then you have your time alignment. So that is in the time delay area. And you can just go ahead and do it in centimeters, milliseconds, or inches. I prefer doing it in inches. So you'll just get a tape measure out, sit down, and measure where you are in comparison to where your speakers are. So now we can go back, hit home, slide it over. If we had satellite radio, that would give us an option to do satellite radio there. So on the bottom, you have some other options where you can go into your camera, your AM/FM tuner, your Bluetooth phone, your Bluetooth music, or your settings. So your settings is going to give you a whole bunch of different things. So right now, video is on. The next one is some settings, so you can do your touch sounds on and off. So right now, if I touch that, no beep. And now if I touch stuff, it'll give me a beep. The illumination on. So right now, if you have an Android Auto, you want to make sure you go into settings and turn the AA wireless to on. Next you have the Wi-Fi. From there you have your language settings. So you can choose any one of a number of languages. And then finally you have your source settings where you can actually give yourself a little bit more sound depending on what you're actually using the most of. So now I'm pretty happy. I know everything works. I know my turn signals work. I know my neutral indicator works. I know my oil light works, as well as my high beam. So now we can go ahead, shut the bike off, get the 4 bolts completely secure that hold that radio in, and then we can go ahead, put our front fairing and windscreen back on. We know everything works, we're good, so now we can go ahead and tighten up the 4 bolts that hold the radio to the front fairing. So just go ahead and get that all done. And then the 2 on the other side. Now the radio is nice and tight. Now is the time to run that USB wherever you would like. Make sure that any loose wires are wire tied and cleaned up, and then we can go ahead and get that front fairing back on. So now it's time to start getting the bike back together. We're going to go ahead and put the supports on, and then we'll go ahead and put our front fairing, get the headlight plugged in. So let's start doing all that. So first support is on. Just make sure that's tight. There we go. Moving on to the other side here. So get this support on. Get it to where it needs to go. This to the speaker here. So now that's on. Now we can go ahead and grab our fairing, and this is where we'll manipulate where we want to have our microphone. So grab our fairing, make sure we have our headlight, getting that plugged in, make sure that clips in. So now sliding it behind gently. Then we'll go ahead and unclip our microphone and then grab the bolts to hold in the fairing. So we'll go ahead and get everything lined up. Get this middle one started, just very, very gently, just so it doesn't fall off. You can go ahead and get the rest of them just started. Again, your hardware may be different. Mine happens to be a Phillips #2. So now that is on there. I can go ahead and get my windscreen, get that slid on. So now my windscreen is slid on, but I still have my microphone on this side. So now we can just kind of tighten that up just a hair more. So now we can go ahead and move to the inside of the fairing, get our couple of bolts that are there, starting at the top here. Moving to the other side here. And then we have the 2 lower that are hidden on the bottom side by the fork. So we'll go ahead and grab that one. And then move to the other side, get that one done. There we go. So now we can go ahead and finally tighten our windscreen completely. Don't be overzealous with it. Just get it snugged up. There we go. So last thing you're gonna do is just actually mount your microphone, again, wherever you would like. It does come with a small piece of double-sided tape, so you can put it wherever you would like. Now that our bike is back together, I can get a true feeling of how good this radio looks in my bike. So the Diamond Audio MSHD9813SG is an absolute workhorse of a radio. I have a 10-channel DSP built in, along with wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. And with the IPX6 rating, I don't have to worry about getting stuck in a rainstorm. Even if I do, the ultra bright LCD screen will allow me to see in any weather. This thing is amazing. If you have any questions or are looking to purchase the Diamond Radio, please visit us at notecycles.com. And as always, guys, have a blast out there.